On the tape plate, it's an immunity boosting bowl. So we're going to add lots of great vegetables. We're going to do a little water saute. We're going to put some yummy sauce over the top of it. Now, I will tell you, most of this video is going to be just watching water sauteing. So if you want to know the ingredients, I just put in some sweet potatoes, zucchini, garlic, celery, kale, and an onion, just how much ever you want of that. I like to fill my bowl up first so that I get an idea of how much I have, in the end. I know that it's going to be the right amount. So this is a really long video. I've sped it up some, but it's the whole process of water sauteing. So you need a good nonstick pan. I've started just with covering the bottom of the pan with water. I've got it on high heat. You want to have all your vegetables ready. You want to be there at the stove for this entire process. You want to add in the things that are like harder vegetables that you want to cook more. You want to add those in first. If another one gets dropped in there like that zucchini, that's okay too. So again, this video is going to be a long process of water sauteing. This dish usually takes me about 15 to 20 minutes, start to finish. I did speed this up so that it's not quite that long. You're welcome to fast forward to kind of see the different steps in the process rather. So we're just going to keep those moving around, and we're going to let that water cook off, and those harder vegetables are going to start to soften. I'm adding in some garlic here. I like to do that early in the process so that it gets nice and browned and that flavor gets mixed in there good. So again, we're just going to let that water soften these vegetables and cook off. Now I'm going to add some celery to this. Now, to be honest, the celery was a little bit of a strange flavor with the sauce that I ended up doing. And you can see there how the water's cooked off a little bit. I'm going to add the zucchini. Zucchini will release a little bit of water. But I'm going to go ahead and add some veggie stock here, some vegetable stock. You could add more water. I just like the flavor of the vegetable stock. And so you see how we're just keeping a little bit of water in the pan, not letting those vegetables stick while they're softening. We want to keep a little bit of water in there. And there you can kind of see the zucchini is releasing some water, so it's got a little bit more water in there now. We can keep that moving around to check to see whenever it's getting, starting to stick, and none of it's sticking so far because we've got our good pan. All right, now you see the water starting to cook off there. And right at the end, I don't like to cook my onions really soft, so I add those right at the end. And normally I would throw in whatever greens I'm putting in. So today I was putting in kale. That's when they would go in, but I just forgot about the kale. But you saw there how there was this nice sticky brown stuff starting to form on the bottom of the pan. That's when you want to add just a little bit of either water or vegetable stock and stir that in. It's called deglazing the pan. That is wonderful, wonderful flavor in there. And if I had remembered to cook my kale, we would be almost done. Like I said, I want those onions to just barely be softened. But because I forgot my kale, I'm going to add it to the pan with a little more vegetable stock and cook that down some. And now my onions are a little more done than I want them to be. But it's okay. Just get those slightly cooked. I like the greens to be just slightly cooked. And you see the pan is getting nice and dry again. Add a little bit of vegetable stock there and deglaze the pan again. And that would be my lunch. Now today I decided I wanted to try to make a nice thick, gooey, cheesy-like sauce. So I gathered some ingredients, some tapioca flour, some vegetable stock, some liquid aminos, some nutritional yeast, and then I also added some smoked paprika that I forgot to put in the picture. So I started with about a cup or so of vegetable stock and onions and garlic. And I just saute that, let it cook down. Again, we're doing high heat. We're staying right there with the pan. That was some liquid aminos. I just did a couple of dashes. That's just a couple of shakes, maybe 3 shakes of nutritional yeast. You see my little piece of kale from my spoon got in there. I'm going to dig it out in a minute. That was the smoked paprika going in. Get that kale out of there. And then it's a bunch of cooking this down again. So we want to just cook it down, let some of those flavors get really intense, and let it start thickening up. I'm also going to add some tapioca flour because I wanted this one to be nice and gooey. I want it to get nice and thick and like a cheese sauce. But I'm going to let it cook down and get those flavors really in there, the onion and garlic. I want those flavors to really be in there. So you can see already, like whenever I poured in a little bit more vegetable stock just to use up that last little bit of it. So I have to do it again. But you'll see as I'm moving the wooden spatula across the pan, how it starts to move away from the pan. Okay, that was some tapioca. I went ahead and added some tapioca flour because I wanted it to get nice and thick. Now, if I had added more tapioca flour at this point, I probably would have been done. I would say that was probably about half a teaspoon, and it probably would have thickened up just right. But because we're cooking on high heat, it's different every time. I just guess, and then I cook a little while and see. So you see how it's starting to move away from the pan? That's what you want. You don't want it to be burning and sticking to the pan. You just want it to keep moving. And again, you can fast forward if you'd like. I thought about doing this because sometimes I just don't want to make the cheesy sauce. I don't want to mess up the blender. I don't want to cook a potato and the zucchini just right. So I wanted to see if I could come up with something that I could just cook right on the spot with those few ingredients and get the flavor and the texture that I wanted, instead of having to make up the cheese sauce in advance. I don't love the potatoes. After they sit in the refrigerator in the cheese sauce, they give a little bit of strange flavor in my opinion, so I'd rather just have something that I can cook on the spot, a nice yummy sauce that I can make whenever I want, right along with the dish. And I only use one pan. And I added some more nutritional yeast, and you saw how instantly that kind of thickened it up a little bit. That's also another way. If you really love nutritional yeast, you can really add a lot of that in. And here's where you can experiment with the flavors. You can add whatever spices, or some jalapeno peppers would be great in this. Just any kind of flavor that you want in this sauce. Easy to make it how you want it. And so you can see it's really starting to get a little thicker. It's really like getting up on the edges of the pan. We're getting there. See how it's staying away longer. Still a little runnier than I wanted it to be for this dish. So I decided to see if it'll cook off a little bit more. Cooking that liquid out is going to thicken it up. And it's starting to look pretty good there. Now I wanted this one to be really thick. And it just wasn't getting much thicker for me. Again, just playing around with it. Seeing what it will do. Keeping it moving so that it doesn't burn on the pan. And I decided to add a little bit more tapioca powder. Just kind of really give it that thick, gooey texture. And this became about texture now. I got the taste I wanted. I played with the seasonings. And now I just wanted it to be a nice gooey. And you kind of start to see some strings forming there. Like some nice melted cheese. And that's what I was looking for. So I poured that over my vegetables and have a beautiful immunity boosting bowl. I hope you enjoy.